Hollywood, they pin your shirt back.
They do.
Yeah.
But they only do that in Hollywood. Like
yes.
You can't get that in New Jersey.
I'm not supposed to be Hollywood.
Welcome to the Thoughts on Digital podcast. Ideas and insight about the ever-changing world of digital marketing. Hello, everybody. My name is Adam Paul Levine, and today I am sitting down with Steve Jackett, Chief Operating Officer at All Things Media, and we are talking about practical applications of VR technology. How's it going, Steve?
It's going well, Adam. How are you?
I'm good.
Great.
I'm excited. Because in looking at this topic, sure. you put it out there, and the reality is there is so much more that VR can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me here again.
Of course.
I think, really from the onset, there's this kind of expectation that VR may be just a little bit gimmicky or game solutions only. And I really like to, try to put out the idea that it's a lot more than that. It has a lot of potential applications well beyond just the kind of gaming solution or point of sale kind of experience.
Sure.
In particular, one of the areas that I think is really ripe for growth is training, employee training. Virtually every company has to train employees who may be interfacing with customers or, just general onboarding. And I think, the VR simulators that exist today, including the ones that ATM has and can produce, really allow you to engage with customers virtually before you're actually on the floor.
Right.
We've all had experiences where we're, being helped by someone who's in a training, on-the-job training. And those, they can go pretty well. And usually people, as
sometimes.
customers sometimes.
Right. It's usually in the restaurant industry. We see a lot of that, right?
Yeah.
The handoff where there's, someone shadowing the other person, right?
Exactly. Or people behind the register at a retail store.
And as soon as you're in a hurry, that's when you're going to get that person.
Exactly.
So that they're going to sit there and take, they're going to have to swipe it 3 times, and then they realize they didn't put the code in right. And
exactly. And again, many customers, given normal circumstances where you're not in a hurry, people are okay with that.
Sure.
Okay, someone's learning. Everyone has to learn on the job, and that's great. VR now, again, offers this great opportunity to train. And certain companies like Walmart and Chipotle and other brands are really taking advantage of what VR can offer to give employees this experience ahead of time. So you can really create diverse and challenging experiences that your employees may encounter on the job, and now they're doing it just in that simulator. They can learn on their own time. If they're not picking up a certain skill set that the company feels they need, they can go through that simulation again, and it can be varied, and it can kind of mimic real life experience as much as possible. So I think we're just kind of scratching the surface there, but I think virtually every company is doing some type of training, and VR just represents a really great opportunity to use the technology to help that.
Yeah, I saw that. Walmart is using it, like you said.
Sure.
And one of the things that I guess never really crossed my mind was that they are not just using it for their general customer training, general employee training, but they're using it. Specifically, I think when they first implemented it was ahead of their holiday rush.
Yeah.
Right. So, the holiday rush isn't just, it's a different beast. If you've ever worked retail, you know that it's not just, help a customer here or there. It is intense and it can get a little crazy. So, especially in a big store like Walmart. So, being able to put your employees in that, sometimes chaotic environment ahead of time to really just, prepare them for doorbusters and, people who coming in and grabbing stuff and, just not, maybe not the friendliest during the holiday season when you should be, but
that's right.
You've got, that opportunity so that they can have those interactions, in this simulation ahead of time. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. And you bring up something else, which is, the retail space is always going to change. There's always the potential, even for a seasoned employee, to not be up to speed on some new product offering.
Right.
Companies change inventory. They, have, different products that they want to maybe position for the holiday season, as you mentioned. And that would give give those more veteran employees an opportunity to also learn through VR simulations. Hey, here's a new offering. Here's a new piece of technology, and this is how you may want to position it, or kind of tips and tricks that might help them as well.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of application there.
Yeah, and it's also not, like you said, for veteran employees, this is maybe an easier way to transition them if the company, let's say, does some sort of reboot in their stores, or how they approach customer interactions in general.
Sure.
Or this could also result in feedback that the company gets to see how people are using the training simulation and doing in there. So it's maybe not just like getting them up to best practices,
right?
But maybe those companies then have the opportunity to see how those people react, and if there's maybe a common occurrence with employees and how they handle situations, maybe they need to revisit their training and figure out what is and isn't working and why people are doing it. There's a lot of psychology involved in that.
Certainly.
And you can really dive in deeper instead of just letting someone experience, do A, B, and C, or like build a sandwich this way, but there's also the ability to see, okay, so every time they need to go, everyone seems to grab this one item from over here, but it's a pain in the butt.
Right.
Maybe we should, a smart store could maybe see that and say, let's put that item closer, or reconfigure the thing that we do that we thought made sense, but now we're seeing it in practice, and you've got the ability to change that and make your store more efficient.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And everything that we're talking about so far is on the service side. It's a great training tool for use in the service sector. There's a lot of other applications too that I'd love to talk about here, which would include companies that are actually producing products and goods. So, in those situations, the companies can use VR to help map out and prototype and build those products ahead of time.
Like mechanical things.
Things.
Automotive
or interior decorating and design. Just anything where you need to envision a space or a product, and you want to see how is this going to look? How's this going to fill a space? For the automotive industry, what are the sight lines? Are there going to be blind spots here? What is it going to look like when you're backing up in this vehicle?
Right.
What's the legroom going to feel like? And to a certain degree, you need to see the final product on the assembly line, but VR gives you a great opportunity to see it as close as you can to real ahead of time. Yeah. And in many cases, companies, automotive brands are starting to utilize this to previs a vehicle and try to work out some of those challenges ahead of time.
Yeah, I forget the name of it, but there was a helicopter manufacturing company.
Right.
A little while ago, and they were one of the early adopters in VR, and they configured their entire cockpit based on sitting in VR and figuring out where things should be in this new model. Completely in a simulation,
right?
And everything just felt real enough to them that they felt comfortable making those decisions that affected the production data
right
later.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of evidence that happens, and one thing that I really want to share with those types of situations is the return on investment. If a company invests in the VR technology and are committed to using it going forward, they are absolutely going to see a cost savings over time. Numerous studies have shown that training your employees, onboarding your employees through VR training is more cost effective than other solutions or traditional solutions. Prototyping and trying to build and solve design or structural changes or challenges ahead of time, absolutely going to save you time and money in the long run.
Sure, especially if you don't need to have an entire store built for that purpose, right?
Right.
If it's all digital, right?
Yeah.
You can put someone in the simulation. You can have a whole bunch of people come to one location and get trained up, or you can have it remotely.
Sure.
Sort of like an online version of this. I know we're getting into multi-user VR, but you can have something like that where you have a classroom full of people, employees or potential employees that are working on the job to figure out different retail scenario, and then you've got other people in the simulation that are not not bots but actual people who are pretending to be virtual customers who you can interact with and have those types of connections.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned multi-user VR. That's something that ATM's been working with a lot lately, and will continue to work with. Our solutions there, I think, really allow people. More and more people are working remotely, are working with teams that are remote in some cases, and having the ability to not only onboard, but then interact with those people on an ongoing basis in weekly meetings or status reports and things like that. Just having the ability to interact in an environment that is a little more robust, that gives you something a little bit beyond the level of just a camera that's recording, or you see people on screen. You can wave back and forth and say, okay, great, I can see you and hear you, but being able to actually interact with them in a virtual space, I think, is the next level of where things are going.
Sure, and I also just think that the stakes are higher when you know that the person on the other side of that isn't AI, is actually a person, even if it, in a simulation. The stakes are just higher because you're interacting with another human.
Yeah, and again, smart companies have really caught on to the idea that if I don't need to fly someone out to meet every single time, there are times when you have to do face-to-face.
Yep.
We understand that. We're not replacing that, but we're augmenting that, and we're facilitating another solution here at ATM that allows people to, interact virtually from various locations. So I think it's, again, I'd love to just drive home that point. It is cost effective. It's not a gimmick. VR is not going away. And really the parent of VR, extended reality, and everything that's going to fall under that with augmented and other mixed realities, it's just going to become, I think, a continuum of virtual experiences or extended reality experiences that are compelling to people. And it's going to become more and more people that are in that wave as opposed to watching it from afar.
Sure. Well, I think this was very, insightful. Thanks for bringing this up. I think there's a lot of things to be learned, and I feel like just in general in this immersive technology space, we're really just starting to scratch the surface. So I think the possibilities are, as they say, endless, and looking forward to seeing kind of what comes next. Thanks so much for coming on.
Great. Thanks again, Adam.
Absolutely. Ideas always go further when they're shared. If you enjoyed the show, leave us a review on iTunes or drop us a comment on YouTube. Let us know what you think about today's topic. We'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next week.